didn't grow up in like a religious household. I grew up in a very atheist household. The only experience that I really have going to church was like a couple times with my grandma whenever I was little, and then whenever you stayed the night at a friend's house on the weekend and you have to go to church with them on Sundays. Whenever I was 17, I lived on my own. My mom moved to Oklahoma and I didn't have a relationship at all with my dad. So I moved to Columbus with my boyfriend at the time. And I was in an unhappy relationship. I was coming home every night and pulling my stuff out of my closet. I didn't have a home that I was comfortable or happy in. And then I just found this moment whenever I was just in the shower and I was literally just sitting on the bathroom floor just crying. And it had just got to this moment where it just felt like I was just completely lost. I didn't know what I was supposed to do now. I was 17. I couldn't even go and get my own apartment yet on my own, and I was just lost. So I just began praying. And there have been a couple times in my life where I had started praying, but I just didn't really know what I was doing. I just remember just sitting there and just praying, like, God, if you can just get me out of this situation. I know that I turned 18 in a couple months and I just want to be able to get into an apartment on my own and just be able to just start my life from there. It was during that prayer that I just really just felt the presence of the Lord for the first time. I never have really felt that feeling, and it's a feeling that I don't really know how to describe, just like a comforting feeling. Only like a week or so after I had turned 18, I got my own studio apartment. I started living on my own. Things were going great. And then I just kind of forgot about the big man, forgot about who got me there. So then I actually turned to alcohol, and I was an alcoholic. I've seen both my parents were alcoholics, and I just kind of didn't know how to cope with what I was going through. I got out of the situation that I was in, and then it was just kind of like, now what? I didn't like the person that I was looking at in the mirror anymore. I was a person that I just didn't recognize. It wasn't this person who had all these goals and aspirations as a kid. I want to be a nurse. I want to be a nurse practitioner and have my own practice one day. There was all of these goals and aspirations, but I just didn't feel them anymore. So I got to a point where I just felt like the Lord was just chasing after me. And anytime that anybody would talk about God, I would just kind of turn it down. I didn't really want to hear any of that. I didn't want to talk about it. I was just uncomfortable with it completely. I was in a place where I didn't have any friends. Any of the friends that I did have, and those were the people who I was going out and getting drunk with. They weren't exactly the people that were lifting each other up and, trying to strive for better or anything. And I decided that it was time for me to start going to a church, and I just needed a community. I was praying, and I felt like things were getting better. I started going to therapy. There was a lot of things that I was doing just to kind of change my life around, but I just didn't exactly know the right path to be going in. I didn't have any guidance. I didn't really have anybody that I could talk to about this. Anytime that I brought it up with my family or with any friends or anything, it was just kind of like let's not talk about that. So I'm at work that night and I'm like, all right, Kaitlyn, we're gonna get off work. It's Saturday night. I'm gonna get off work in the morning, and it's Sunday morning at 7 a.m. and I'm gonna go to a church. I'm like, okay. I look up the closest one near to me and I'm like, all right, 614. Okay, I look at it, it's like a small little building. I'm like, okay, this isn't as big. Let me go check it out. So I'm literally just so nervous before I even come into the building. And I just remember having a moment where I'm just sitting in my car and I was just praying that if God was really following me the way that I felt like he was going to, that somebody was going to pray for me whenever I came into this building, and that whenever I came into this building that I was going to be able to find some sense of community and just have people that are just going to be able to just help me through this walk, just give me some kind of guidance at all so I just don't feel so lost. And it was just amazing. As soon as I walked into the room, it just felt so comforting. It was great to see a lot of people that were my age, and they were just on fire for the Lord, and just being able to see that, I've never seen that before. So it was just completely life-changing to be able to come in here and see that. As soon as we started singing, as soon as we started worshiping, I was just crying, profusely crying. And I am one of those people that's I won't cry in front of anybody. I'm just I'm gonna just be strong and stick it out. I'm not the type to cry, and especially in public in front of all these people that I don't know. So then I sit down and David starts talking, and just every single word that was coming out of his mouth, I just felt like he was just talking directly towards me. He was just talking about, especially at the end, whenever he was put your hand up if, you want to accept Jesus into your life and all of that. And I was just I swear there was just nobody else in the room at that moment. All of our eyes were closed, and Of course, I don't know if anybody else raised their hand, but I raised my hand. And I just remember just this feeling of just being like I think that I actually finally found something. I had sat next to Kim, and obviously I didn't know who she was, a woman with her husband, and we had sat next to each other the entire service. And it wasn't until the end of the service when she just turned over to introduce herself to me, and I just started crying, which I was crying beginning in the worship, but by the time that David and everything was talking, I had composed myself. But then whenever she just goes to introduce herself to me, I just start sobbing. I don't even know this poor lady, and I'm just looking at her and just crying. I just don't know what to do. I'm just lost. I'm crying about my mom. I'm crying about my relationships. I'm crying about everything that I have going on, where I'm just lost and I'm just confused. I'm like, all right, I'm going to church, now what? What am I supposed to be doing? And I had actually signed up to get baptized. And it just seemed like it was supposed to be the right thing to do. And then I had a conversation with my dad that actually made me be like, oh, okay, maybe this isn't right. My dad is very atheist. He's one of the smartest men that I know. And it just made me think oh, maybe I'm jumping into this too quickly. Maybe this just isn't what I should be doing. Maybe. It just put all these questions into my head. He's just are you sure that that's what you believe? And I think that this was the first time that I had anybody question my beliefs. So after I had that conversation with my dad, he just started having me just question everything. And it was just kind of at the end of our conversation that he was closing out, that he was just yeah, I mean, he was basically coming to terms with it and just being hey kid, whatever you choose to follow, that's on you. And then he had just made a little joke at the end. He was but don't get baptized. It was a little just kind of threw it in there at the end. So I wake up, it's Sunday morning, and I'm supposed to get baptized at the 9 a.m. service. And my friend's coming over. She goes to a different church, but she was coming in to watch me get baptized. It is 9 a.m. and she's knocking on my front door. If that's not the devil not trying to get me baptized, I don't know what is. So I don't even have an outfit. I don't have anything planned. I am just stressing out. So she comes in, she helps me get myself together really quick, and we Zoom here. At the end of the service, I'm talking to Wendy, and I'm do you know what's going on? What I'm supposed to do? I'm just so lost. I'm just every single thought is just racing through my head. Am I sure that I'm making the right decision? What's even gonna happen? I'm thinking something gonna happen whenever I go under the water. I just didn't know what to expect. I'm just so anxious. I'm just full of every anxiety. So I'm just I'm in the bathroom and I'm just getting dressed and I'm just so nervous. I just don't know what to expect. What is even about to happen here? I've actually never even seen anybody ever get baptized before. I don't even know what's about to happen. Whenever I came out of the water, it was just I didn't know exactly the feeling that I was feeling. It was just oh wow, I felt like a new person, honestly. I just felt okay, everything, I just left that in the water behind me. The girls from my life group were all there. They had all watched me get baptized and everything. And then after that, we were all just standing in a circle and they were all just praying around me. I remember their hand just being on my head and them all just hugging me and praying for me and just praying that just after this moment that I was just gonna be able to just walk in the relationship with the Lord, and that I was just gonna be able to just draw closer to Him every single day since that moment. And that is just exactly what had happened. And just feeling the presence of all of these girls around me that I know that they also have a relationship with the Lord, and they just only want to see good out of me. I didn't have any family that was there with me, so just to be able to have that group of girls that were around me and just in support of me just felt so great.